Hey, what's happening everyone? Cody Lefever coming to you from North America's highest gym in Alma, Colorado. Elevation 10,361 feet. I am here in the expansion area of the gym. You can see all of this equipment and construction trash and everything else that's got to get done before we expand this beautiful mural that my wife has painted. That's now complete. We just got to get the logos put up and everything. This is not the reason for today's update though. The reason for today's update is because it is a big day. Today is, that's right, today, maybe not the day you're watching it, but the day I'm filming it, is the 1800th workout without a rest day. That's 1,800 workouts on consecutive days, training every day for nearly the last 5 years. And because I had a goal of getting 18-inch arms, I just achieved that last month. I figured why not, for the 1800th workout without a rest day, film an arm day. So that's what I hope to do today, is show you what I'm doing for arms. This is just one session out of basically 3 sessions that I'm doing on rotation for arms. So today will be biceps and triceps. That's like my pure arm day. And then I also have a bicep focus day, which is more like back and biceps if you want to think about it like that, where I'll do rows, pull downs, and then biceps, T3 exercises, more T3s than what my training historically would have been. And then I've got a tricep focus day where I'll do like pressing or close grip bench sometimes, and then a lot of triceps exercises. And depending on the day, sometimes I just skip the compound lifts and go straight to the isolation exercises. And that's just because one, maybe, here's a prime example, a great example actually. Maybe my shoulder's acting up and I just know that doing bench or overhead press is not the right move. So in that case, I'll just move straight to triceps exercises. Likewise for biceps exercises, if like my back is acting up. The primary goal is to train every single day, these consecutive training sessions, keeping me moving. And with that being the primary goal, I don't make the decision to say, well, tomorrow's a rest day, I can potentially injure myself today. That is not an option. I cannot make that risk. It's not worth it. I've learned this, I'm almost 40 years old, just that risk of like, oh, you know what, my back's acting a little funny, I'm gonna pull heavy today and just see how it goes. That's not even on the table. So on days where I think that risk is a little too high, I will skip the compound lifts and go straight to the isolation exercises. That does mean that on some occasions, I've got a tricep day where I just do like 4 or 5, maybe 6 different triceps exercises. So that's a glimpse into my arm training because I have achieved 18-inch arms, and I'm going to be showing you today like the bicep tricep day where I'm doing both biceps and triceps, typically supersetted together. Depending on how packed the gym is, sometimes I just can't do that. So anyways, I want to give you a quick update on what I'm doing for my training to achieve these 18-inch arms. They don't really look big on camera. I don't know why that is. Isn't the camera supposed to add like 10 pounds, 10 inches or something like that? It's baloney. Anyways, before we move on to actual training session, I just want to give you a quick look at some boxes here. That's a powerlifting combo rack and a Rogue Monster Westside bench press. I've got an old school Magnum front squat here with a Cybex plate loaded dip assist. I've got 2 ellipticals, that's a word for it. 2 ellipticals right there, different kinds of aerial stride trainer than a true. 2 big heavy tires right back here. This is the queen of the show, of the expansion, a legit commercial cable machine, something that my gym has lacked these last almost 2 years of being open. So that's cool. We're going to have this whole back area hopefully ready to go in the next month or so. We'll see. I've got to do some water mitigation issues. We are having some flooding because of snowmelt. So I got to take care of some seals there at the back of this old building, but we're getting it going, folks. Thanks for all of your support. This gym wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. I don't even know if I would be here if it wasn't for you. Maybe I'd be out digging ditches somewhere or something, but that's not the case because so many of you out there support me, use my training, send me donations, have bought my $1 ebook. That'll be changing soon. I'm going to be putting out some more material. So if you do want to buy ebooks, that's on the horizon too. General gains, some other stuff. Whether you're running my training programs on Boost Camp, sending me tips, hiring me as your online coach, so many other avenues, buying merch. I mean, I feel like I could just go on and on about the enormous amount of support so many of you have given me and allowed me to be here in this beautiful mountainous place, surrounded by great folks, making a positive impact in this small little corner of my world. So before I get too choked up here, let's just get on with the training. Thanks for watching.
All right, everyone, so I tried to film this video with a microphone and just talk to the camera as I'm working out and everything. It just really didn't work out as I had hoped, though I do have a nicer microphone for future videos, and perhaps you will see me talking to the camera at that point in time. However, narration is just going to be better for this video because I just want to talk about what my trainings looked like for arms these last few years. So at the end of this video, there's going to be a couple of photos that I took off my Instagram that show my progress since, I think, 2021. And that's when I was first just breaking past 17-inch arms. And I mean, really, I felt like I was between 16 and 17 inches for years because I just never put in a lot of work into my arms. Though they were frequently involved in my T3, the dedicated volume just wasn't there. And even still, since I got 17-inch arms, they have not always been the priority. Although 18-inch arms was a goal, it wasn't the number one goal. So as I mentioned earlier in this video, the consecutive training is the goal. That just keeps me moving, feeling good, and I find physicality itself just a very important aspect in my life, something that is good for me mentally, spiritually, and of course physically, as long as I'm not just crushing myself for the sake of crushing myself. Making wise training decisions and setting goals and accomplishing, that always feels good. So without going into the details on the grand scheme of my training, I'm going to just start talking specifically about my arm training these last few years. As many of you know, the year 2023, last year, just a couple of weeks ago, several weeks ago now, 2 months ago, it was the year of the squat. So during 2023, I had a bunch of squat goals from 100 reps to 1 reps and wanted to get PRs at each one of those markers, and I did that. So squat was the secondary priority next to the consecutive training. Now, third on the priority list was overhead press, and I got a bunch of overhead press goals there, including a new 1 rep max. And lower down on the list would have been arms. For a brief period in 2023, I wanted to get a bench PR. I did not accomplish that. The bench just aggravates my shoulders and pecs too much. I probably need to go back and reevaluate my training, look at the data, and just adjust those things, adjust the way I approach the bench. But anyways, my point here is that arms last year were not the first, second, third, maybe the fourth, maybe they were the fifth priority in 2023. That doesn't mean I wasn't training them. It just wasn't as frequent as it has been these first 2 months of 2024. So with that said, this kind of fits into the grand scheme of a periodized training approach. And periodization works for hypertrophy, it works for strength, and I find it to be very beneficial, not just to get bigger and stronger, but also because it keeps me engaged, it keeps things fresh, it allows me to make sustainable progress, and when things begin to stall out, then it signals to me in that periodized approach that it's time to shift gears, move to a different direction, and maybe change exercises, change my loading scheme, something. Now, I don't want you to take that as me encouraging you to practice muscle confusion or whatever, right? This isn't about changing things ad hoc, willy-nilly, and not having any discernible data from which you can make intelligent training decisions. That's not what I'm telling you to do at all. In a periodized training approach, you should have things be consistent for a period of time. Your body adapts during that period to the stimulus that you're giving it, and then the body gets so good that it starts to not adapt. You no longer you're no longer growing at the same rate. You're no longer progressing your rep maxes at the same rate. Your body's just incredibly efficient. So when you're finding this in your training to be the case, it's a smart move to change something about your training. This can be the exercises. This can be the loading. It could be the volume that you're doing. It could be the frequency of your training. That's all up to you. How this fits in with my arm training for the last few years, regardless of whether arm training is higher or lower on the priority list, how it fits into that scheme is that I will train my arms for a period of time, maybe 2 to 3 months, with a lot more focus, maybe 2 or 3 sessions a week. Right now it's 3 sessions a week, where I'm doing probably around 10 to 15 sets for biceps or triceps, or like in this session, I did I think 15 sets for both biceps and triceps in the same session, this being the pure arm day in this particular period of my training. Previously, if like squat was the main goal, I would just try to do more arm T3s just to hold on to the gains that I had made in previous arm focused periods of my training. So in those arm focused periods, you see a lot of growth rapidly. Then you'll see it to start slow down and stall, and that's pretty normal. In that point in time, I'll shift gears, refocus my efforts on something else, maybe a rep max goal on the overhead press, just for example, and then just hold on to whatever gains I had made with minimal training volume directly to the arms for triceps or biceps. And that might go down to just maybe 10 to 15 sets per week, whereas like this is 15 sets in one session. So there's periods of a high amount of stimulus, and then that will go into a period of a low amount of stimulus, and where you're just trying to maintain. Then your body gets desensitized, essentially, to the training that you've done. And then that point in time, after several weeks, I like to spin it back up and again get back into more demanding arm training. And that's what you're seeing here. So since last, let's call it 3 years, I've put on an inch to my arms, maybe a smidge more, not much. So that also comes with like a general weight gain across the board. So I'm heavier than I've ever been, generally bigger than I've ever been. My legs, glutes, shoulders, chest, back, everything is itself bigger. My arms have stayed the course and also grown as well. Now, you might also see that I'm also not as lean as I had been in the past. I've been on a very long, slow, steady bulk. I'm currently weighing between 205 and 210 most days. If I have a busier week in the gym and I just hadn't kept up on my eating, I might weigh myself at the end of the week and I'm like 200. But I think in this session, I'd weighed myself a couple days before and I was like 205. Anyways, the arm training itself, it undulates through different periods, and I encourage you to try something along those lines where you're purposely doing a lot of volume for your arms, maybe upwards of 30 sets, perhaps more a week. I know there's some science out there that show up to like 52 sets or something like that. That might be on the extreme end. I don't know. I found myself like 30-ish, 35 sets is kind of like a good like upper end for dedicated arm training blocks. And that would include a back day where I've got several more biceps T3s than what I typically have historically, like way back when I was competing in powerlifting now 8 years ago, even earlier than that, 10 years ago plus. Likewise for triceps days, where I'll have, bench or overhead press followed by some triceps T3s. Just doing maybe 1 or 2 more exercises, 3 to 5 sets on each one of those exercises. In this particular session, a bicep tricep day, I did, I believe it was 3 exercises for biceps and triceps and 5 sets on each of those. The first set being on an easier effort. So I could have done probably 2 to 3 more reps with the exact same quality, keeping things consistent, not trying to cheat reps. And then the second set a little bit more difficult, meaning closer to technical failure. And then the third, fourth, fifth set being on the edge of failure. Maybe I could have done one more really nasty rep. But the point is that not all of my sets are to failure. I don't think that's necessary for growth. There's plenty of science out there that proves training to failure is not necessary for growth. If you look at Renaissance periodization, in a previous video of mine, I put up a chart that's on their Instagram that around 2 reps from failure is when you're seeing good gains. 5 reps away from failure, the hypertrophy response is not as good. The point is you don't need to go to failure to see progress. Maybe you see incrementally more progress, just a tiny bit more, when you are going from 2 reps to failure to 1 rep to failure to actual failure. That's what the chart shows. And I, from my experience, believe that to be relatively true. The issue I find with going to failure on everything is that the fatigue is too high and the stimulus is too great for recovery. And that might, play into someone's favor where they say, well, Cody, you should take rest days. I've found that to not actually benefit my recovery all that much, because I'm just then psychologically turning each session before a rest day into go crazy hard and exceed my recovery ability even with the rest day. So there's a little caveat there, is that I'm able to better regulate my training without the rest days, train close to technical failure frequently, and not exceed my recovery ability while also maintaining a high level of training frequency. And this is what I've found to be very beneficial during these high stimulus periods in my training, where I am getting, maybe it's 30 plus sets per week on arms, is that spaced out across 3 sessions, maybe 4, depending on the way that the week goes. I've got a lot on my plate with the business, whether it's my gym here or clients in the gym or online clients, whatever else I got going on. I have to shift things around and be flexible. Nevertheless, I'm trying to have a certain amount of frequency during these high volume, higher frequency arm training periods. And when I find the stimulus to not result in the desired adaptation, this adaptation slower, then I'll dial down and shift gears. Typically, then I'll find myself shifting to a strength-oriented block where I'm going after rep max PRs on squat or overhead press. That's the most common theme the last couple of years. We'll see what's in store for this year. Maybe I'll incorporate some deadlift or, circle back to the bench press and reevaluate what I was doing before. But I see that period on the horizon where I'll turn down the arm training and turn up the more specific movement, trying to PR on lifts, going for lower volume, higher intensity on a specific movement. So that was a look at bicep tricep day. I hope you found this narration informative, give you some ideas about your own arm training. Here's just a brief look at a couple of years ago where my arms were, slow, steady progress up to this point now, to where it's February 2024. I've got 18-inch arms, and hoping to hold on to these for this next year, probably grow them a little bit more. We'll see what the year looks like. Anyways, thanks for watching.